What's happening, guys? Brand new episode here of To the House. We're live here at Studio 69, a new revamped Studio 69. I'm really happy to be back here. Always, trying to renovate this place to make it as nice and fancy. So we're doing it here at the studio today. I'm really proud to be here. I'm your host, Lee Rodriguez. Guys, this has been a very interesting week 9 of the National Football League. Let's get straight into it. We had a game in Germany. We had a game in Frankfurt as the Miami Dolphins took on the Kansas City Chiefs. That was an excellent game. It finished the Chiefs winning 21-14 against the Dolphins. The Chiefs are now 7-2, and the Dolphins are now 6-3. Still in first place in the AFC East. But of course, this is the main takeaway I got from that game. Let's talk about it. The main takeaway I got from this game was that, hey, the Chiefs continue to win without having a true number one receiver. Travis Kelce didn't have the best of game on Germany, and he struggled a bit. He only had 3 catches. His numbers weren't that great, but the running game was working. Pacheco had a big game. And, Mahomes is Mahomes. He is elite. Doesn't matter what happens. Patrick Mahomes will win you games. He'll find a way to win you games. But the real takeaway I got from this is that Miami, who has always been, for the last 2 years with the Mike McDaniels era, they've been a very good first half team, but their second half team, they're just not very good. Yes, Tua was hurt for most of the year last year. But Tua is starting to struggle now. He's turning the ball over. They're playing against better teams now. Their division is getting tougher now because now you have the Jets are now coming up. The Bills, we'll talk about them in a little bit, but they're still there. They're still there to beat that Miami's boogeyman. Miami doesn't really have a good record against the Buffalo Bills. So, in my opinion, the Dolphins need to be playing a little bit more better. I mean, they're struggling. They're struggling, and it's a situation where if I'm the Chiefs, I'm comfortable now sitting with knowing that it's really just Baltimore right now as the team to watch out for the AFC and the Bengals. I think the AFC East, other than per se maybe the Dolphins, if they get their stuff together. Buffalo's starting to look like a broken team. The Jets are still not fully strengthened yet, but if they do manage to somehow get Aaron Rodgers back by this season, they're a threat. So it'll be interesting to see what happens for this Miami Dolphins team, but it's not looking good. And for the Chiefs, they got a big win. Now, one thing I took away from that game in Frankfurt is Germany is so far looking like the more entertaining venue for football internationally. I mean, yes, Mexico has still got their game coming up, and Mexico has done a very good job. Of course, I think Mexico, they're doing a great job with their football game. I'm not sure who hosts the game in Mexico this year, but they've had a good time. Germany, though, I see more energy from the Germans. I mean, England, they've been doing it in London for a while now, and yes, they have a brilliant venue to do it in Tottenham Stadium, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which I'm curious to see what they do next year because obviously they brought in more games now. And I think they have to bring in more games to Germany now. I mean, Munich was last year and Munich did a great job. Frankfurt's done a tremendous job this year. I'd be curious to see if they do Berlin next or Dortmund. That'd be an interesting one to see. But I have to admit the Germans have done a tremendous job with these games, and shout out to Eintracht Frankfurt for the venue, for the beautiful stadium that is Frankfurt Stadium. That's just a beautiful stadium. Germany needs to host more games, and there's talks about possibly doing an international Super Bowl as well. it wouldn't be a bad idea to do it in Germany. I think Germany has the more exciting prospect, and other than per se London. Although London has done a good job, but I think the environment and the atmosphere, I think the Germans are just top notch. I think they're just one of the best to do it in sports. If you ever watch a Bundesliga game, the fans are always the big part of why the Bundesliga is so watchable. Is the fan culture. It's just how committed they are to the sport, and if they could do that with football, the NFL will be coming again. Trust me, no questions asked. But let's talk about the 1 o'clock games. One game in particular that I was very, very intrigued by was the Vikings versus the Falcons. They went to Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Vikings started Jurin Hall, or Jarrell Hill, I'm not sure, the rookie from BYU. They started him. Because obviously Kirk Cousins is out with an Achilles injury, and let's just say the rookie from BYU got hurt and was out of the game, and they brought in Josh Dobbs, a guy that they traded for in the trade deadline from Arizona, and Dobbs, my goodness. I mean, I knew Dobbs was solid. I mean, Dobbs looked like a very good quarterback. At several moments this season with Arizona. I mean, granted, he doesn't really have that many good weapons around him, but he did beat the Cowboys in their only win for Arizona this season. And Arizona were in games. They were in a lot of games this season. They were fighting hard, and he played really well. So for Josh Dobbs to play in this Vikings offense that literally is just insanely talented, they have such a good running game, and they have arguably top receivers. And just imagine, he doesn't even have Justin Jefferson back yet, which once he comes back, it will be very interesting. I honestly believe with this impressive victory for Dobbs, that Dobbs could take this team to the playoffs. They're back. They're 5-4 now. They are definitely in the hunt for the playoffs. I have to say it. The Vikings could make the playoffs. They're slowly but surely fighting back. This was a game that they could have lost, but they ended up winning. And then they're hosting the Saints next week. That's an interesting matchup as well. And this Viking schedule gets easier. It gets kind of easier at this point. I mean, they got to go to Denver, then they host the Bears, then they go to Las Vegas, then it's at Cincy, then they host the Lions, then they host the Packers, and then they go to Detroit. So honestly, they could finish 10-7 here. I mean, or it could finish. The best for them is 10-7 or 9-8 to make the playoffs. I think that's the best bet for the Vikings. They could definitely win. They can go on a little bit of a run here. They've won. They beat the 49ers. This run they've been going on since the Chiefs game when they were 1-4. They've won 4 in a row. And they've won against good teams. The Bears game was ugly. Then they played the Vikings, and Kirk Cousins played amazingly in that one. And then they hammered the Packers. And they beat the Falcons. This is a good team right now. This is a team that's believing now. And Kirk not being there definitely stinks for them, because I honestly think if they had Kirk Cousins today, they would never have gotten to this point with the Falcons. I think they probably would have blown them out. But to be fair, I think honestly that the Vikings are a playoff team right now, and they're starting to show it. And I gotta say, watch out for the Minnesota Vikings. They're a playoff team. But the other team we have to talk about, the Atlanta Falcons, who are 4-5. Well, probably one of the most frustrating teams in the National Football League. Just solely the fact of the matter is that they have so much talent, and yet they're still so inconsistent. First off, Arthur Smith, the head coach, needs to go. He needs to get the fuck out of Atlanta. What are they doing to Bijan Robinson? What did Bijan do to Arthur Smith? How do you think that you got to keep going with the upper hand? Like I get it. Algier is not a bad running back, but he's not a number one running back. And Cordell Patterson, I mean, cool. Like you still want to keep going with that. You have a very good running back, a guy that can easily affect defenses with his ability to catch the football and his elusiveness. He's so physical. I don't know what Arthur Smith is doing. Uh, the fact that you kept with Desmond Ridder for all this time, and Desmond Ridder obviously was never going to be the long-term future option for at quarterback for the Falcons. And then after that, you go out and then you decide, all right, we'll go with Tyler Heineke, and Heineke is not a bad quarterback. No, in my opinion, I think he is a good quarterback, but I honestly believe that he is just not good enough to win this game and win you games for Atlanta. He barely did it with Washington. I mean, he was solid at Washington. He probably has better weapons now than he did at Washington, but to be fair, this is not good enough. The Falcons need to really start thinking about what they're going to bring at quarterback. And honestly, I think they need a new head coach because this team is talented. This team is very talented. They have talent, but I don't know. I just don't get it. And this is a team that, in my opinion, is struggling mightily hard right now with play calling and obviously defensive help because their defense is allowing a lot of points lately. Luckily, they're still in the division because that division's not great. I mean, you got the Saints looking like they may be the competitor right now for first place, and the Falcons are right behind them. The Panthers we could talk about the Panthers being literally so bad and that maybe they're regretting drafting Bryce Young. I'm not entirely sure if Bryce Young is really the problem in Carolina, but seeing like we'll talk about later with CJ Stroud, yeah, I mean Carolina struggling, and then of course the Bucks. I mean, I thought they were going to be the best team in that division, and we'll talk about them in a little bit, but yeah, the Falcons still can make the playoffs, but who knows right at this point. Then we have a good game. Seattle Seahawks at Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens winning 37-3 in that matchup. Holy shit, guys. I mean, I've been yelling it on my roof for the longest time that Lamar Jackson is elite. And Lamar Jackson is a top 5 quarterback in this league. Maybe top 3. In my opinion, I think the guy is just so good. But he needed weapons. Baltimore never gave him any weapons whatsoever. Now he has so many weapons. He got Zay Flowers. He's got Odell Beckham Jr. He's got this running game going with Gus Edwards. It stunk that J.K. Dobbins got hurt. This defense has always been good. It's always been good. I mean, Baltimore's always been known as a great defensive unit. But this receiving core now they haven't, and Mark Andrews is starting to get a little renaissance back. I'm telling you right now, man, the Baltimore Ravens this is 9 weeks already in. They're the best team in football right now. They're the most complete team in football. They are 100% the best team in football. I guarantee you Baltimore could go to Philadelphia and destroy the Eagles. The Eagles are not as good as they were. We'll talk about the Eagles later. But the Ravens could easily beat the Eagles. The Ravens could definitely compete against the Chiefs. I think they could go to Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs. At this point, it might have to go to Baltimore at this point. So I honestly believe that Baltimore could go to anywhere and beat any football team. Even when they're playing bad, they dominate. Look at against Arizona. They look tired and fatigued, and they dismantled the Cardinals. So it just tells you Baltimore is the best team in football right now. There's no other questions about it. For me, Baltimore is the best team in football. But for me right now, The Seahawks, they're still a good team. I think they have a very talented defense. Their offense is a work in progress. They have an explosive receiving core. They have a great running back in Kenneth Walker. Geno Smith is still, in my opinion, still a very good quarterback. But he is limited a bit. And they're good, but they're not great. Geno is not the problem here. I mean, Geno didn't have a great game last against the Ravens. But to be fair, Jared Goff went to Baltimore and got completely hammered as well. So a lot of quarterbacks are going to struggle against this Baltimore defense. They're a very good team. They're a very good bunch. Baltimore will come to any stadium and give you problems. But the Seahawks are not great yet. They'll be good probably in a couple seasons. Pete Carroll's building a very good team. I think their defense is legit. But they need more. And getting Leonard Williams was a big move for them. I think they're going to have to start thinking about a quarterback for the future because you don't know how many more years you got with Geno. Geno's not young anymore. I mean, Geno is great. Don't get me wrong. I like Geno Smith. I think he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFC NFC right now, which is not saying much because the NFC quarterbacks are not that great. But still, Geno is in that category. I think Geno is a very good quarterback. But the thing is that he's limited. He's not going to win you games by himself. And when they play against a very good team and a very good defense, the Seahawks could struggle. But not to say that Seattle's bad and they need to get a quarterback change. No way in hell. I personally believe that this Seahawks team is good. They will compete with the Niners for that division. Because we need to know how good the Niners will be after their bye week. Because they've lost 3 in a row. And the Seahawks, they just lost today. They lost this week, and they played against the best team in football. So in my opinion, the jury's still out on who will win the West. But I still think the Seahawks are a competitor for the 49ers. And I can't wait to see their matchup between the two. Because I think it's going to be interesting. And I still believe the Seahawks will make the playoffs. I truly believe it. They are that good. And one thing I took away from this game is that Lamar Jackson has got to be the MVP right now. He's the front runner right now. Everybody's talking about A.J. Brown. Everybody's talking about Tyreek Hill. And some people were talking about quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes should be in the conversation because, he's been so dominant. There's even talks about Jason Kelsey because of the brotherly tug, whatever they call that, the brotherly tush or tush push, whatever you want to call that stupid fucking play that should be illegal. But in my opinion, Lamar Jackson's the MVP right now. Lamar Jackson is proven to be an MVP. His numbers show it. He's having a phenomenal season. You clearly see when Lamar Jackson has weapons to play with, he is an elite quarterback. Baltimore will not win these games without Lamar Jackson, though. Don't get me wrong. Their defense is very good, and they have a very good offense, but Lamar Jackson at quarterback changes things. He's elite. You can go have the guy who they had before, his backup. There, you could probably have Brock Purdy on this team, and Brock Purdy wouldn't be as good. He has it made in San Francisco. But Baltimore is an offense run strictly for Lamar Jackson. And this is why Lamar Jackson is thriving. And this is why, in my opinion, he should be the MVP again and win a second one. Because I love Lamar Jackson. I'm always a big Lamar Jackson guy. I'm always going to support the dude. I knew when they didn't want to pay him, it would be a mistake for Baltimore to let him go. Because if they didn't want to pay him, I'm telling you right now, Baltimore will go straight down. Lamar Jackson, you give him an offense that is capable, an offensive line that is capable of blocking, and you have receivers that he can throw to. Lamar Jackson's special. Every player wants to play with this kid. He's that good. He's the man. Lamar is the guy. Lamar is that guy. be fair. Lamar Jackson deserved his money, and it's showing. Baltimore is getting a huge reward from it, and I'm so thankful that they finally realized they had it good with Lamar Jackson, and they don't want to let him go. I'm very happy. And I've a lot of teams that were a little hesitant on trying to get Lamar, a trade for Lamar, they should regret not trying to push hard, because when you give him an offense, a good offense, this guy can do it. And this guy can put some numbers that just go, wow. And that's what he's doing right now. So, in my opinion, Baltimore is legit. Another game I want to talk about. A game that probably not that many people were hyped on, but just how significant this was, because the game was probably the game of the this is probably the game of the season right now, in my opinion. As the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at Houston Texans. The Texans came from behind and won 39-37. And an incredible drive by, in my opinion, the rookie of the year, and I think he just sealed it this week, is C.J. Stroud. Holy shit. This kid is for real. In my opinion, he should have been the number one pick. Now, seeing this, I love Bryce Young. I'm a big fan of the Alabama Crimson Tide. Bryce Young had two very good seasons, two seasons with Nick Saban. He won the Heisman, deservedly so. He has that clutch gene, but he's struggling mightily in Carolina. And I'm not sure if Carolina is doing a good job working with an offense for him. They gave him Thielen, and that's it. They don't really have that many good weapons. I mean, the other guy is DJ Shark. That's not particularly great. And Thielen, as great as he is, you just have to double cover him or just cover him with a fast guy, and their Carolina offense is done. And also, you have Frank Reich as your coach. The dude failed in Indianapolis. The dude is failing in Carolina. He's an offensive coordinator at best. I'm sorry. He needs to go. So the jury's still on Bryce, but man, C.J. Stroud is doing an amazing job. I'm not sure if it's just because Houston's a better system right now, and they're obviously a way better team than Carolina is right now. Because I guarantee you, if you give Frank Reich C.J. Stroud, he'll probably struggle too. But to be fair, man, C.J. Stroud, he's that guy now. In my opinion, he should be in the Pro Bowl. He should be a Pro Bowl quarterback right now, and he's playing like it. He is unbelievable. This is a Houston Texans team. When I saw on paper, you say, yeah, they improve a little bit. They should be maybe a 4 to 5 win team at best. He's got this team possibly making the playoffs now. And possibly winning that, getting that wild card spot. Because I'm not sure if they'll win the division. Because Jacksonville is still the best team in that division. And Jacksonville is starting to get hot now. So I still think that the Jaguars will win that division. But you got the Texans on their tails. Jaguars are 6-2. Texans already dismantled the Jaguars, by the way. That's another thing, guys. They went out and beat the Jaguars. I mean, the next couple of games for Houston does get tough. They go at Cincy, which could be a loss. Then then they play the Arizona Cardinals. Then they host the Jaguars, host the Broncos. Then they go to the MetLife to the Jets. Then they go to Tennessee. Then the Browns come to town. Then they host Tennessee, and then they go to Indianapolis. It's a tough schedule, but honestly, the way that the C.J. Stroud's getting this team, they could win 8 to 9 games. I honestly believe it. You may call me crazy, but this is a very good football team right now. They're hot. They're not afraid to play anybody. And they have a quarterback that will throw the ball so effectively. He doesn't turn the ball over. He is very good at not turning the ball over. This guy, I can't believe it. when I was seeing from the scouts that he did not do a good job with his IQ test in college and in the NFL draft. Who fucking cares? The dude is look at this dude's numbers. He's thrown for 2,270 yards. It's week 9, by the way. He's thrown for 14 touchdowns and has 1 interception. 1 all season. A rookie quarterback. A rookie quarterback. His worst performance was against Carolina, a game they lost, where he threw for 140 yards and did not have a touchdown or an interception. He had an 81.9 passer rating. What? Since then, he's thrown the only one time he did not throw for over 200 yards was against the Saints, where he threw for 2 touchdowns and an interception in that one. And last time I checked, they beat the Saints. That was the only game he threw an interception. Since then, he's been flawless. 249 yards, 306 yards against the 306 yards against that Pittsburgh defense, by the way. Against Jacksonville, threw for 2 touchdowns and 280 yards. Against Indianapolis, 384 yards. This dude loves to throw the fucking football, dude. He has a quarterback rating of 102.9. This guy is legit. 14 touchdowns and 1 interception. This dude's going to throw for 30. And he's going to throw maybe 4, maybe 5 interceptions. That's MVP numbers. And he's a rookie quarterback. And he doesn't have that many good weapons. I mean, Tank Dell has looked very good. He still hasn't even used Mechie yet, which is a speedy receiver that he's going to start using a little bit more now. He's got Dalton Schultz as a tight end, very good. The only guy that hasn't really been that effective yet is Pierce, the running back, but wait till he starts getting it going. Their offensive line is not as good. And just wait, because he'll get that addressed next season. This dude's going to be Joe Burrow. This dude's going to be like Joe Burrow. Next season, I can't wait for year 2. I'm serious. The Texans, they might have to be the luckiest franchise ever because they went from Deshaun Watson, which was great, and then Deshaun screwed his life up, whatever you want to say. And then you think, the Houston Texans are never going to get a quarterback as good as Deshaun Watson. No, they hit it out of the park with C.J. Stroud. And they also, I have to say this as well. Yes, you could say C.J. Stroud, you could applaud him for what he's done. But guys, what a job DeMeco Ryans is doing at head coach in Houston. Holy shit. This guy's got this team playing hard. They don't get blown out. They don't get blown out. They don't. Tell me what you can tell me whatever you want. All right, they played Baltimore and they were in that game against Baltimore, right? He didn't have that. That team was in it for most of the game, right? They were in it. I mean, they finished 25-9, but at several moments it was 7-6 at halftime. It took a big third quarter from Baltimore to stick a spread away from the Houston Texans. Right? That third quarter is what changed everything for them. Since then, they've been in games. Against Indianapolis, they were fighting. They blew out Jacksonville. This is a team, I'm telling you right now, man. This is a legit team that can make the playoffs. And I'm applauding the city of Houston because they deserved it. They deserve better. I'm happy for them. I'm happy for DeMeco Ryans. He's showing that he is legit. And that Shanahan tree, man, just keeps getting bigger and bigger, man. The influence in the Shanahan coaching philosophy, it's going everywhere. I mean, you had Robert Saleh in the Jets. You have Matt LaFleur with the Packers. You got Mike McDaniels in Miami. You got Sean McVay in L.A., and now you got DeMeco Ryans in Houston. the sky's the limit with this franchise. I gotta say, man, it's between them and Sirianni. I mean, Sirianni's building. He's got the Colts. Look at the Colts. I mean, the Colts got Steichen, who's the coach, and he's done a tremendous job. He's done a tremendous job with Indianapolis. They don't have their starting quarterback, and yet they're still winning. That's insane. That's just truly remarkable. This is just some of the most incredible coaching jobs. But right now, D'Amico Ryans is doing something special in Houston. And another takeaway I got from this Tampa Bay game was that Tampa Bay Houston game is that I was wrong about the Bucks. I was wrong. I was wrong with the Bucks. They're not the best team in that division. I'm starting to think they're starting to crack and fall apart. I honestly think Todd Bowles should be fired. They're losing momentum. Baker's not the issue. I think Baker's playing pretty well enough to be a starting quarterback for that team. Their defense is allowing too many points. They're starting to suffer. The offense, I think this was their best performance they've had since the losing streak, and they still lost. Play calling has not been their strongest suit. Todd Bowles is gonna have to change something, man, because the Bucks are starting to fall apart, and I don't know what they're gonna do. I mean, that they're lucky they're in a bad division, and if they win next week, they're still in it. But knowing how New Orleans is still steady, Atlanta's still steady, the Bucks are not playing steady football right now. They are struggling, and I'm not sure if they can get out of it. And maybe they would have to start thinking. Maybe we should start thinking about tanking a little bit, so that maybe we can get some high quality players. Because you're going to lose Mike Evans next in the offseason. They're not looking like they're going to give him a new contract. Teams are going to be flying to get Mike Evans into their roster because Mike Evans is legit. He is that good. So I'm just curious to see what happens next for the Bucks, but it's not looking good. And speaking about not looking good, I have to talk about this team, unfortunately. It's the New York Giants. I know a lot of fans. I know a lot of Giants fans. I'm from the New York, New Jersey area. They took on the Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders, with their new coach, Antonio Pierce. And the Raiders won dominantly, 30-6. It wasn't even close. The game was completely 100% one-sided. And, of course, it ends with the Raiders winning a big one, and they were dancing and everything. But let's talk about the Raiders first, before I talk about this abysmal franchise that is the New York Giants. First off, Antonio Pierce is starting to look like Rich Bisaccia from 2 years ago, when Rick Bisaccia had this team and going to the playoffs, and people really love Rich, and they were playing hard for Rich. I'm starting to believe that this team is feeding off of Antonio Pierce's energy. First off, I think Antonio Pierce is a very solid defensive coordinator. I think he's got this defense playing. I mean, granted, it was the Giants, and they're terrible, but that defense was playing hard. Max Crosby is a fucking animal. That guy is one of the best defensive players in football. He's grown so much as a player. I hate playing against that dude, because that dude is always going to be in trouble. He's always going to be a problem. He is so talented. He is so good. That defense is playing well. The offense has now got a new identity. Run the fucking football. You got a great running back in Josh Jacobs. Yes, Devontae Adams did not have a great game, but Aiden O'Connell had a nice game. He was spreading the ball really well. He was throwing it really well. The Raiders have a good offense, wide receivers. They have good wide receivers. Their tight end, Michael Mayer, is starting to get a little bit into his groove. He looked solid. If they could keep this running game going with Josh Jacobs, and this team is playing good football, man. I don't know, man. This Raiders team is starting to look really good, man. They're starting to get it. If I'm the Raiders, I'm liking it. I'm liking this. They're playing the Jets next Sunday night. I'm tuning in. I'm tuning in to watch this game. This is going to be a bloodbath. This is going to be one of those physical games. Now, the Raiders' schedule gets pretty tough, though, because they do play the Jets, then they play the Dolphins, they go to Miami, then they host the Chiefs, then they host the Vikings, then they host the Chargers, then they go to Arrowhead, then they go to Indy, and then they host the Broncos. So they do have a lot of home games left, which is good for them. That could possibly get them motivated. The crowd was feeding off of this energy. I saw a lot of videos of fans literally thanking Mark Davis for finally getting rid of Josh McDaniels. And I mean, to be fair, I think it was the right decision for them to finally get rid of the stench that was Josh McDaniels, because in my opinion, he's the worst head coach in the history of football. I mean, he's a damn good offensive coordinator, but he is not a good football coach. He screwed up Denver and he screwed up Las Vegas. It's showing. Antonio Pierce has got this team believing that they could beat anybody. They were celebrating. I get it. It was the Giants, and we'll talk about the Giants in a little bit. But this Raiders team is starting to look legit, like a team that could make the playoffs. They're 4-5. It may be tough. There's going to be some games where they're going to probably get hammered. I mean, this Jets game could be the convincer. I mean, both defenses are going to come and play that game. It's just if Zach Wilson can play, which, to be fair, he has been playing the last couple of games since their winning streak. He's been playing really well. Monday night is a big test for Zach because it's at LA and they're taking on a very good Chargers team. So I'm curious to see that. That Sunday night game is going to be interesting. The Jets are interesting. I really can't wait to watch that game next Sunday. I'm tuning in for that game. Now let's talk about the New York Football Giants. Holy shit. My expectations were low for the Giants this week. To be fair, this season I thought they were going to be good. I'm being real. They won 10 games last year. This team won 10 games last year. 10. They won a playoff game. A road playoff game, ladies and gentlemen. They won a road playoff game against a good Minnesota Vikings team. A good one. Right? And they have been absolutely abysmal this season. Brian Daboll has looked like a coach that has no idea how to change this football team anymore. And that is not a good look if you're the New York Football Giants. You guys do know they won 10 games last year. And they played some decent teams last year. They beat teams that they got destroyed by 2 years ago. Daniel Jones, I feel bad for him because he's out for the year. He tore his ACL. I can confirm it now officially that he has torn his ACL. Brian Daboll officially will announce it in a little bit in his press conference. They have torn his ACL. He's out for the year. So it's with Tommy DeVito, guys. But don't worry, Tyrod Taylor will miraculously come back from a rib injury. And he'll probably get an injury and then back to Tommy DeVito, and they don't have a quarterback. They needed a quarterback. Tannehill was available. Dobbs was available. You didn't go out and get anybody. You didn't push to get anybody. This is a problem for the Giants. This game against the Raiders was one of the worst performances I've ever seen from a football team in a long time. And there were some bad performances from bad teams this year. You could talk about the Bears. But now the Bears look improved now with this new quarterback who plays in Division II football. He looks a little bit better than Fields. They're actually playing better without Fields than with him. And this team is just an embarrassment. They went to Las Vegas with a team that has a coach that's never coached in the National Football League. He was a linebackers coach. Now, I'm just saying this as a Giants perspective. Because as a football knowledge, I knew Antonio Pierce was going to have that team fired up. I was curious to see what he was going to do as a coach. He looked pretty impressive. That team looked like they were hungry. They were like wolves ready to attack. I liked what I saw from Antonio Pierce. But the Giants should have won this game. If they had any proper knowledge. You had your starting quarterback back. You have most of your starters are in that game. You had a defense that was playing elite for the last 3 weeks. And then you had a coach that's won 10 games last year. 10 games! And you go in there to Las Vegas down 24-0 at half. With an offense that looked fucking horrendous. Horrendous. I'm not even a Giants fan. And I was pissed off. I was embarrassed. I could care less. I'm a Cowboys fan. I should be celebrating. I generally feel bad for Giants fans right now. Because this is a very respectable franchise that has so much history. They should be in amongst the elite. But lately they have been horrible. Last week's episode, I talked about a person I've been seeing. She was joking. I told her about I wanted to buy her a Giants jersey for Christmas. And I asked her, which player would you want? And she literally had no idea because they're all terrible. So, an update. I talked to her on last Sunday's game against the Raiders. Well, this week, the Week 9 matchup against the Raiders. Since this episode's being recorded on a Monday. So, I asked her, I said, are you watching the Giants game? And she goes, yeah, unfortunately, I am. This is really bad. And she literally said, I quote, God bless her. She's an incredibly amazing human being. And she's too funny. Because she's so funny. And, the funny thing is she's funny. Just her little, barbs are hilarious. Because they're clever. She literally goes, I believe my high school football team could beat this Giants team. I couldn't stop laughing. But she's not wrong. They are bad. I thought the Bears were bad. The Panthers are bad. They are bad teams. The Cardinals are a bad team. But the Cardinals are competitive. The Giants are not competitive. I am sorry. Yes, the last 3 weeks they've been competitive. But they are fucking horrible, guys. When will... what's his name? Tim Mara, John Mara is the owner. When will he fucking realize that you really need to change things? Instead of worrying about your daughter's acting career and how fucking she is successful, Kate's an incredibly successful person. Instead of worrying about your daughter's fucking acting career and getting her into roles and being... Listen, he should be happy about his daughter being a A-list actress, a very good actress. How about worrying about this fucking football team? Because your father passed, Wellington, would not allow this team to be this bad. Oh, no. No. Wellington would have fired Brian Dable today. Brian Dable would not have a job right now. And I don't think he would pay Daniel Jones that money. He would probably go and find a quarterback. And he's aggressive. Dude, this guy brought Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick. He brought in he brought in Lawrence Taylor. He knows talent. The Maras should know what good teams are. They made good teams. 20 years ago, this Giants team won a Super Bowl. Right? I think it's been it's 15 maybe. Maybe I'm over exaggerating how many years it's been. But they know good football. This is not good football. This Giants team is horrible. This is by far the worst Giants team I've ever seen. And I've seen some bad ones. I've seen some bad ones, but this one's the worst. They can't score a touchdown. Tommy DeVito threw a beautiful throw for that to be the touchdown. But since then, he threw back-to-back interceptions. This dude, they don't want him to throw the football. They can't trust him. They literally threw him the football now because they're going to run it all game. You're going to run it when you're down by 30 at one point? They were down by 27-0. Then they scored that touchdown, and then the Raiders got a field goal. No, I'm sorry. It was 23-0. And then the Raiders scored a touchdown to make it 30-6. And they blew them out, guys. It wasn't even close. This Raiders team should have never been that dominant. This was a new interim head coach who had zero coaching experience in the National Football League. This was like when the Raiders lost to Jeff Saturday and the Colts. This was bad. Beyond bad for the Giants. And the person I said in prior that she said that she said that this team could lose to her high school football team. She's not joking. Her father, I know, is a huge Giants fan. God forbid if I find out what he believes. I want to know what he thinks. And he'll probably say the same thing I'm saying. What the fuck is this team? And that dude's probably seen Parcells. He's seen the great years of the Giants. The 90s weren't particularly a good year for the Giants. And then the Tom Coughlin years. The early Tom Coughlin years. Because the later ones were not that very good. Although Tom Coughlin is a damn good coach. Won 2 Super Bowls. He knows. Maybe you should bring him back as a general manager or whatever. Because it ain't working right now. You decided you wanted to pay all that money to Daniel Jones, which is now starting to look like the biggest mistake ever. It's probably one of the worst free agent decisions, I think, in NFL history now. It's up there. And no disrespect to Daniel Jones. Because I believe Daniel Jones is not that bad of a quarterback. You win a playoff game, you gotta have some skill. They failed him on the offensive line. That offensive line is terrible. Evan Neal talking about burger flippers, whatever you call that. He's going to be flipping burgers very soon. Because that dude is horrible. As one player, I saw Max Crosby literally threw him like he was a rag doll. Max Crosby is no joke. He is amazing. He's an incredible fucking football player. But goodness gracious, guys, he threw him like a rag doll. Evan Neal is supposed to be this big, giant, athletic freak of nature. He's been nothing but a freaking mess. The Giants, I don't know what they have to do. Daniel Jones is out for the year. He's torn his ACL. The Giants are definitely going to be in the hunt for a top 5 pick in the draft. I mean, if they continue tanking, maybe they can go for a Caleb Williams, or if not, you can go for a Drake May, which honestly wouldn't be a bad decision for the Giants. So, in my opinion, the Giants need to really start thinking about bringing in a new quarterback and starting it up all over again. Because they have decent receivers. Jalen Hyatt's not a bad receiver. Darius Slayton's not a bad receiver. Darren Waller is starting to look like a big mistake. He's injured now. This is the reason why the Raiders let him go. And he is a solid tight end. Don't get me wrong. He is very good. But he gets injured a lot. And it's showing. And the other guy who made that big touchdown, he looked solid. Saquon is literally carrying this offense. And he can't carry it for long. He's going to get injured. And he's underpaid. So that's another thing. If I'm the Giants, you just got to blow it all up and start all over again. You have a solid defense. Keep working on that defense. But you got to do something with the offensive line. It's terrible. Andrew Thomas is really the only guy they have that's anything good on the offensive line. And the Giants' schedule, man, it doesn't get pretty. It doesn't get pretty. Because the next game is against Dallas at Arlington. And the Cowboys just lost to the Eagles, which we'll talk about later. They're going to want to beat the living shit out of them. Then they go to Washington. Possible win there. Maybe. Then they host the Patriots. A possible win. Then they host the Packers. A possible win. Go to New Orleans. That's a loss. Philly. Loss. Then they host the Rams. 50-50. 60-40 maybe for the Rams. But it's close. Then they host the Eagles. They'll definitely lose that one. I don't see this Giants team maybe winning more than 3 or 4 games this season. And that's if they be lucky. That's if they're lucky. If they can win those 2 games, I think they can win. Or 3. I don't believe they can win even 1 more. This is a bad football team. Brian Dable's got to go. General manager has to go. Daniel Jones is, see ya. Sorry we paid you. We have to release you. Or trade you somewhere. Maybe some stupid team will trade for Daniel Jones. But this is a bad team. And this is a team that's going to be bad for a very long time. It's going to be ugly. And I hope Giants fans are ready for another 3 more years of ineptitude. I feel it. I feel for you, Giants fans. I feel for you. And I'm a Cowboys fan. I should be happy that you guys are terrible. No, I feel bad. I feel horrible for this fan base. Because they deserved more. They deserved more. It's too many years now where this Giants team has been so bad. It's been too many years. They deserve better. They deserve better. Now, probably the game of the week, in my opinion, the big game that everybody was going to talk about is the Dallas Cowboys at Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles winning 28-3. My biggest takeaway is the NFL refs. They were bad. This was a bad NFL referee job from the NFL. These referees need to get suspended or something. How on earth? Now, to be fair, I did maybe go overboard on social media talking about how the Eagles robbed the Cowboys. You definitely can make that argument that the refs were very favorable for the Cowboys. For the Eagles, I'm sorry. Very much so. I truly believe it. I don't care what anybody tells me. The refs really helped this game for the Eagles. They didn't help him at the end. And we'll talk about the ending. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of these players got a lot of the defense. First off, how on earth is you're going to say that the guy stripped a fumble and recovered his own fumble. How? How? And then the guy strips it out of his hand and running out. And you say, oh no, sorry, the Eagles still got the ball. And then you say a passing or a holding, illegal touching on, I think it was Curse or whoever the number 6 is. I think it's Wilson, Donovan Wilson. He was pulling Julio Jones' shirt. Last time I saw Bradbury did the same thing to CD, and I think I even saw, well, I'm not even going to say Slay, because Darius Slay is an elite corner. But Bradbury was doing that a lot, and he was manhandling Gallup, and he was manhandling Cooks. Nothing. Then Dak got clobbered. Nothing. Michael Parsons literally got held in the last drive that should have given the Cowboys 15 more yards to the defense and giving the Eagles backed up more. But no, we missed those. We didn't see him. But then they managed to give 3 penalties to the Eagles, to the Cowboys on that last drive. And that last drive was very infuriating because this game should have been won. The Cowboys were the better team on the field. Eagles fans are going to say, oh, no, we were this, we were... No, the Eagles have been not that great this year. They have been fortunate because they have Lady Luck on their side on a lot of these games. Against the Dolphins, the referees blew that game as well. And you can ask any Miami fan, they felt undone. The Cowboys are going to be frustrated because they're going to feel undone. They were the better team. Both teams were better teams. The Eagles played good, not great. Last year they were dominant. Last year they were a dominant bunch. They were dominating left and right. And this game, the Cowboys were the better team. Dak outplayed Jalen Hurts 100%. Jalen Hurts did not play a good football game. He played well enough to win the game. But he was not that great. Not compared to last season, where he was, in my opinion, he was the best quarterback in the NFC. Dak outplayed him. Dak played probably the best performance of his career was today, in my opinion. And he's had some good games. But Dak played outstanding. He was not the problem last night. Yes, at the end, he was sloppy. He was very sloppy. The offensive line looked sloppy. The play calling wasn't particularly that great. But still, Dak outplayed him. He threw for over 300 yards. Had 3 touchdowns. Did not turn the ball over. He was moving the ball really well. It was just the game of inches. The Cowboys were just really unlucky. And the refs kind of made the game go to the Eagles' perspective. That's what I saw. A lot of people in Philadelphia is going to say, oh, no, we deserve it. No, you did not. You guys are lucky. And to be fair, maybe that's all you need to win. But in my opinion, they're not a Super Bowl team. They're not a Super Bowl team. I guarantee you they play the Cowboys again, they'll lose. Dallas is going to remember this game. And they're going to remember how close they are, and they're going to host them in Arlington. Now, maybe the division may be over. Now, maybe Philly may win this division with this win. Because I feel like this was the biggest obstacle for them to not win the division. I think Philly will win this division. But if the Cowboys win against the Giants, which they should, there's been a lot of surprises. But if they do beat the Giants and the Eagles lose to the Chiefs, they're still back in it. There's only 2 games. Or a game and a half. Because the Eagles still have to play their bye. And the Cowboys' schedule let's be fair. The Cowboys schedule does get a little tricky, because all right, so they host the Giants, then they go to Carolina, should win. They host the Commanders, they should win. They host the Seahawks, that's a tough one. Host the Eagles, that's a tough one. Go to Buffalo, 50-50. At Miami, 50-50. Detroit, 50-50. Commanders, at Commanders, they should win. So they could lose 2 more games, 3 more games. The Eagles' schedule is awful. It doesn't get easy. Oh, no. It doesn't get easy for Philly. It gets ugly. Because remember, they still got to play the Niners. They still got to play the Seahawks. And they still got to play the Chiefs. It gets pretty ugly for this team. And they got to go travel in a bunch of these areas. It gets tough for Philly. So, and if they're playing like that again, they're bound to lose 2 or 3 more games. Philly is not invincible. I think they are definitely beatable, but they're in the driver's seat now to take the number 1 seed. They are for sure. They could lose a couple of these games and still be number 1. The NFC is not that good this year. It's struggling. But the Eagles are in the driver's seat for taking the number 1 seed. Are they that elite? They're good, but they're not great. Not like last year. Last year they were flawless. They were a great football team. This year they have holes, big holes, and who knows if anybody could take it in the NFC. I know in the AFC they have to worry. NFC, we'll see. And then we got the Sunday Night Football's matchup between the Buffalo Bills at Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals won 24-18. And guys, been saying it. The Bengals are back. And the AFC are very worried about that. You know the Chiefs are going to think about that. You know the Ravens are going to think about that. The Bills are done. We'll talk about the Bills in a little bit. But the Bengals right now, they are back. They're 5-3. They look very good again. Joe Burrow is playing once again back to where he was supposed to be. I like this Bengals team. I've always been a fan of Joe Burrow. I love Joe Burrow. I'm always going to support the dude. Their schedule does get a little tricky though, because they do take on the Texans and they're red hot. Then they go to Baltimore. That's a phenomenal game, and I'm so happy that's a Thursday night. Then they play the Steelers, tough. Then they play the Jaguars at Jacksonville, tough. Indy, tough. Vikings, tough. Steelers, tough. At Kansas City, I love that matchup. And then they end the season with hosting the Browns, also tough. The Bengals are back, and they could win these games. They honestly could still win a bunch of these games because they're that good. So, in my opinion, I think the Bengals are back. I like the way they're playing. Joe Burrow's back. They're running the football effectively with Joe Mixon. This is a good team, guys, and I hate to say this, but they are good. They are that good. For the Bills, though, goodness gracious, they are done. I think it's safe to say the Bills are not winning the Super Bowl this year. And in my opinion, they're in trouble to missing the playoffs. They're 5-4. Their division is tough now. They got to go play the Jets again. Then they got to go play the Dolphins again. And they already lost to the Patriots. And their schedule doesn't get any prettier. They got to go play the Cowboys. They got to go play the Eagles. It's ugly. It's ugly. This Bills team is not winning games. They honestly could finish 9-8 or 8-9. And in the AFC right now, where the AFC North is taking the wild card spots, I'm not sure. I think the Bills are done. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. It's crazy. I cannot believe that. I was astonished to even think that way. But you have to start believing it. It's insane. It's insane. But Josh Allen's turning the ball over. They're too predictable on offense. Their defense is not as good. They haven't been the same since Vaughn got injured. And since Tre'Davious White has been out, anybody could throw the ball on the Bills now. This is a problem. This is a problem. And if I am Buffalo, and if I am Sean McDermott, I'm starting to worry about what is there left to do in Buffalo. You may have to move some pieces around next season. Stephon Diggs, I'm not sure if he wants to still be there. I mean, he's had skirmishes this preseason, and it's starting to show. He's just the connection between him and Allen we're starting good, but it hasn't been good. It's not enough. And the running game, the lack of running game in Buffalo is going to kill this team. Josh Allen is going to turn the ball over so many more times, and it becomes a problem. Buffalo are done. I think you could put this in Vegas money that Buffalo could miss the playoffs and will miss the playoffs. The last takeaway I got from this game is that can the Bengals catch up to the Ravens? They're only a game behind. Baltimore still has to play them. And now this is a fully strengthened Baltimore Ravens and Cincinnati Bengals game. I can't wait to see that matchup. I think that winner of that game will win the division. Stay tuned. I think they can. It's not over. This is what makes this division one of the best divisions in football right now. It's very intriguing. I'm loving it. Guys, this was a great episode. A long episode. Mostly because I ranted about the Giants. But, guys, this was fun. To the house. We'll be back. Now, we're moving it on Tuesdays now, guys. Tuesdays. So, very excited. And hopefully you guys have a good week. And see you guys next week on week 10 of the National Football League. Let's go to the house!